Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of Destination Anywhere. On this episode, we're headed west of Pennsylvania to check out some of the awesome attractions buried in the Keystone State. We got abandoned towns, old steel mills, and views as far as the eye can see. Before we get started, please don't forget to subscribe to the Mickey Shuffle by clicking the button on the bottom right. With that said, let's get on the road. Hidden in the tiny borough of Albertus, in the Lehigh Valley, are the preserved masonry remains of a once flourishing iron production facility. Lockridge Park, as it's known today, was originally the site of the Lockridge Ironworks and later Thomas Iron Company, beginning in 1868. Utilizing two blast furnaces, the Iron Company existed at a time when iron and steel production was thriving in the Lehigh Valley. Finishing up iron production in 1921, the structures lay in ruin until being turned over to Lehigh County in 1976. Today, the 60-acre park showcases the skeletal remains of the pre-industrial revolution era. Visitors can take self-guided tours, as well as utilize a picnic area or a nearby baseball diamond. Whatever your interests are, this is a great place to spend a few hours. After leaving Lockridge, it was time to get a bird's eye view of Lehigh County from its highest point. To get to that point, we'd have to ascend 1,500 feet. Luckily, most of it was done by car. Once we parked, we'd have to traverse a dirt trail that eventually turned to rocks. After about a 20-minute hike, we were greeted by this rock that signaled we were at Bake Oven Knob. We weren't the only visitors on this day, but it didn't take away from the breathtaking view we saw. Looking out over the Lehigh Valley, we could have easily spent a few hours here. Not far from this ledge was another view on the other side of the peak. Unfortunately, we didn't have a ton of time to spend at the knob, and I was eager to get to the next destination, one I'd been hearing about for years. One of the most curious sights in all of Pennsylvania is the town of Centralia. Located in Columbia County, this once thriving coal town is now nearly completely abandoned thanks to an underground fire that's been burning since 1962. While opinions differ on what sparked the fire, the lack of ground stability as well as the presence of carbon monoxide runoff led to a steady decrease in the town's population. In 1992, eminent domain was invoked on Centralia, and by 2010, a town that once had a population of over 2,000 was down to just 10 citizens. One of the casualties of the fire was the original Route 61. The The one-time main thoroughfare faced stability issues and was eventually rerouted. Today, this stretch of the original Route 61, now known as Graffiti Highway, is a popular destination for urban explorers of all ages. Eventually, there'll be no one left living in Centralia, but you can bet curious visitors will continue to flock to this unique destination for years to come. Next up on our Keystone State journey was a quick stop in Jim Thorpe. This picturesque city was originally known as Mock Chunk, a name coined by the indigenous Munsee Lenape Native Americans. Featuring the historic Carbon County Jail, as well as several other historically maintained buildings, the town would eventually become known as Jim Thorpe, named after the famous Olympian. With a desire to generate more tourism, township officials would reach a deal with Thorpe's widow after his death in 1953. The deal would change the name of the town and bring the athlete's famous remains to rest in a newly built memorial on one end of the town. In the years since, there have been several attempts by Thorpe's relatives to bring his remains back to his native Oklahoma, but those attempts proved futile in the courts. Consistently ranked as one of the best small towns in America, Jim Thorpe is a must-see for any traveler crossing eastern Pennsylvania. The final stop on this trip features the remains of an American landmark. This location saw production of material used in the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge, Madison Square Garden, and the Hoover Dam, just to name a few. While these grounds first saw production starting in 1857, it was in 1904 when this mill became mainly known by its most prominent moniker, Bethlehem Steel. Working with the U.S. government during World War I and II, Bethlehem was one of the leaders in steel, armor, and gun production, as well as being on the forefront of shipbuilding. After years of prosperity, the good times started to shift by the 1960s as other steel mills across the country became competitive. Coupled with advancements in foreign production as well as a lack of modernization, Bethlehem faced a slow decline until filing for bankruptcy in 2001. Today, the remains of the once thriving steel plant sit as a pivotal feature in a revitalized entertainment plaza. The grounds known as Steel Stacks feature concert grounds, an art center, and the nearby Sands Casino. In my opinion, the Steel Stacks is one of the best examples of embracing an area's past by also adding a modern tourism element. Rather than tear down the mill, Bethlehem was able to incorporate it into a new attraction that's interesting for visitors of any age. Featuring year-round events, the steel stacks are well worth a day trip if you're in the area. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Destination Anywhere. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to the Mickey Shuffle.